Yeah, I mean, I don't have to preach to you. It's almost impossible to keep up with everything when there's two fields going at the same time. And I'll give Jacksonville credit. They were very efficient with the plays, at least their starting offense versus our defense. They might have ran probably twice the plays that our offense ran against their defense, just because Jacksonville was in and out of huddle every time. Our defense was ready, and they were kind of going at it. It was pretty competitive. So it was kind of hard to keep up with both. But I definitely will say that they were Rob Hunt and Damian Lewis. They both got work with the starters. I think they kind of were on a pitch count. I don't think they were out there the full time. And then obviously they're going to mix and match as some groups go on, just to kind of give everybody a feel with different combinations. And it was a great test for them because they played Jacksonville last year. And so, Hines Allen and Walker are two high quality defensive linemen. And then Art Armstead, the big guy, he's a big guy too in the middle. And I'm not gonna lie, they kind of brought it to that Panthers offensive line. Bryce was definitely under a lot of pressure. And I was tweeting out Bryce's would be, I kind of confuse people. I would say, hey, Bryce is sacked, but they're always going to play on in these joint practices because you want to get looks, you want to get reps. So you kind of got to balance it, but there were a lot of would-be sacks. Now, I saw some people from the Jags beat saying 10 to 12 sacks. I don't know if I would have said it was that much, but there was definitely a lot of pressure. Bryce had to move a lot to make some plays. And then it was kind of tough sledding in the run game. I didn't really see much in the running game at all until they really got towards that goal line period, and they were able to bounce stuff outside a few times. Brooks had a couple nice runs there trying to get to the corner, and Etienne and Dylan did their thing as well. But the offensive line, there were some struggles, and this is a group for it. I know the one time I actually did pay attention to the offensive line was in the final kind of period when everybody was on the same field, and I think it was second down. Hines Allen beat Walker for a would-be sack in that scenario, and it kind of hurt the drive overall because they do the 2-minute drive, one timeout, minute whatever left, and it was kind of a drive killer to start that off. But I think they did decent in the one-on-ones. Canales seemed to think they competed. Freeland, he kind of took a few lumps I saw as well, but he kind of hung in there too. So they were pretty steady on the edges, but it felt like the pocket was kind of collapsing on Bryce at times, and he had to kind of run around and make things happen. But again, the 10 to 12 sacks thing, that's a little extreme in my opinion.
I mean,
there was definitely a lot of pressure.
You know as well as I do, like in game situations, Bryce sees somebody coming in running free. He's either going to try to duck around him or throw it away.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think some of those would have been throwaways, but no, I get it. It's hard to how many sacks and all this, but you brought up Freeling. I jumped on Canales' presser at the end of the practice yesterday. I wasn't able to ask questions, but they were live streaming it. And he said Freeling did okay. Like he sat down against the rush, like he had, which told me he liked his footwork okay. And he said there was some good and some bad, both in Freeling's one-on-ones and in the team drills with Freeling. And look, that we might hear a lot of that from Canales after games this year. I mean, that's kind of the nature of the beast when you're going to start a rookie offensive tackle in this league. It is. I don't think there's going to be many games where it is just clean, across the board for Monroe Freeling. And that's not a knock on him. That's just kind of part of the learning curve. And that's what they're staring at right now. And I had someone ask me this week, a pretty good question, like, what do you think happens if, when Taylor Moton comes back? And I said, that's a great question. I mean, it depends on Monroe Freeling, how he's playing at the time. I don't think you're going to just let Taylor Moton, with the money you're paying him, just say, oh, okay, we're good, man. Like, I think they're going to find a way to get him. And a lot of times, Dunk, these things have a way of playing themselves out anyway. But we're getting way ahead of ourselves. But we had at least one viewer on the comments here asking about, are Hunt and Lewis going to start Friday at Jacksonville? I think so. That I don't think Canales was asked that specifically yesterday, but he sort of indicated that early in the week here in Charlotte before the traveling party went down south. But I think they should. I think they will. And it's just kind of a matter of, as you said during the practice, the pitch count.
Yeah, I would. That's the same vibe I got. I mean, like I said, I wasn't there with you guys asking the question, but that's the vibe I got. I feel like everybody's going to play to an extent. They may rotate that interior out just because how crucial they are going to be to the team, and then leave some of the other starters in, like Bryce and the receivers and stuff, and just to get a look at different combos anyway. But I would expect them to play. I'm hoping they play just so they can kind of at least kind of get a look at the full unit as is. But in the joint practices, I will say injuries was pretty clean. I know Xavier Legette kind of went down. He got rolled up on during a 5-yard line run drill when one of those Brooks touchdown runs. Somebody rolled up on him, but he seemed to be fine, but they held him out. I know Jalen Phillips, he had a wrist thing, and they held him out, but he made plays early. I thought, just to give my thoughts on the joint practice as a whole, and I know kind of the word coming out is that it was a slow start for the Panthers, and they kind of woke things up. And that's kind of what it was. And I guess most people summarize it offensively. I was sitting in front of our defense versus their offense. So I'll speak on the other side first. But yeah, I did see a lot of struggles early on, like I said, with the pressure, trying to find people. I thought it was interesting that they didn't really spread the ball around like I thought they would. The tight ends definitely got involved, but if it wasn't a tight end, it was T-Mac. I didn't see Poker didn't really get many targets at all, if not any. He had one long ball where he was wide open, but Bryce kind of checked it down, and he was a little frustrated with that. I didn't really see Legette do a ton either. Jimmy got involved a little bit. David Moore had a few passes from Pickett, but in terms of the starters, it was Mitch Evans had a nice pass down the field for a touchdown where he was wide open. And then again, it was a lot of T-Mac. T-Mac really he dominated early on. He didn't really get a ton of decent looks, and they had him in a slot a lot. I'll say that. But he even said it himself. And if T-Mac, he's still a wide receiver by nature. He's not a diva per se because he's still young. But if you kind of listen to what he says and what happened, saying that we kind of got too cute, and then when we kind of figured things out, he was kind of saying that we weren't figuring out how to get me the ball. Once we got me the ball, we started figuring stuff out. And he probably ended up with at least 4 or 5 different touchdowns. I saw like a lot of the big wide receiver stuff that we've kind of been wanting to see. They were pretty physical with him early on when he was kind of running some like intermediate routes, but then it got to a point where Bryce started just kind of giving him a chance. And like with Bryce kind of being under pressure, he just kind of trusted his guy. He caught it on 2 defenders one time. There was a nice play in the end zone on a slant where he kind of really just boxed them out and kind of went up, kept the ball up high, and caught a slant on that. And he was pretty unstoppable down the stretch, and you could tell that.
And just to clarify, a lot of that was going in, right? Red zone.
Yeah,
toward the end, obviously. Yeah.
So they're 20.
That's great.
Yeah, they did a 20-yard line. There was one 40-yard bomb that he caught. The one on 2 defenders is a pretty long one, and he kind of ran from left side of the field all the way a deep crosser to the other and caught that touchdown on 2 guys. It was pretty, and it was funny because there's only like maybe 10 Panthers fans there. It got real quiet anytime the Panthers offense made a play, and so it was just kind of like you could hear a pin drop when he made that. It was me. I was kind of yelling back there because it was kind of like a big ooh play, but I thought T-Mac really kind of took over at some point, and sometimes it was against their backups. I think when he caught those on 2 defenders, it was their backups, but a lot of times it was against their starters. I know him and Hunter were going at it a little bit. Hunter had a PBU a little bit early on in practice, but you can kind of see once they kind of made it a point to get T-Mac the ball down the field, he really started to show up. So it sounds like a lot of the stuff that's been happening in practice is starting to carry over.
So I know you're going to shout out our great sponsor Prize Picks here in a little bit, and some of their bets that folks can jump on. I think some easy money yesterday would have been who's going to start a fight or potentially with one of the biggest hits of the day, Trayvon Merrick. I happened to catch up with him recently. I didn't really do this on purpose at first. It was kind of they signed Waller, and the story just kind of the Merrick story just kept getting pushed back. And then I finally was like, you know what? I'm going to save this and write it for the morning of Jacksonville because I remembered the morning of Houston last year when he absolutely just destroyed Hutchinson across the middle.
Yeah.
Sounds like it was a similar play. And by the way, I may have told this story last week.